Hello, everyone, and welcome back to RHAP's coverage of the Circle Season 7. I'm your host, Taran Armstrong, and I'm joined today by Pooya. How you doing, Pooya?
I'm doing well. Week 3, Circle, good times have been had. Let's talk about this third and last batch before the finale.
So messy. I mean, I don't know if this keeps happening. I don't know what it is. I feel like there was a batch of Circle seasons where I was just kind of like, meh. Um, but But then I think about them and I'm like, every season at least has something there. But like last season, I really enjoyed. This season, I feel like, is this like good television? I'm not sure.
I think we're getting there. I feel like we had a glimpse of this in the early of season, was it 2, with the Team Savannah, Team
Mhm.
Tara Alicia. Like we had something there, but it kind of just fizzled out because they both went out like back to back. So I feel like here we've got a lot of people fighting, but then immediately making up and then strategically talking about where to rank people. So it's not what it used to be, where I feel like a lot of the other seasons you can look at it and if someone's rated last, it's because they're not popular. Whereas
Mhm.
here, I feel like you're getting put last because people don't want you to get the influencer because they want you out, not because you are useless in the game. So it's been very fun. And I think that they maybe have changed the meta. I don't know if last season, this season, was it the new was it moving the apartment to the US that did it? I don't know, but there's something in the water and it's been good so far.
It has. I mean, we kick off this batch of episodes, and I will say, still do not like the cliffhangers. It's still ruining the impact of these big moments. Because I do feel like this moment with Darian should have been even bigger than it was. But the guy puts Kevin in the influencer seat, and then Kevin fights tooth and nail to send him out of the game. I mean, you can't write that. On top of the fact that Madeline has already been the cause of Andy's demise, and
Right.
before that, Kevin got out Savannah, or I think it was Savannah, right?
Yeah,
You just
yeah,
said Savannah, so now Savannah's in my head.
yeah.
And so it's like these people are just like making these wild calls. It feels like Big Brother 26 is happening in the Circles apartment complex.
Yeah, people are getting rid of their allies that they have no business getting rid of for no good reason, even. But then for some of them, it's working. Like that's the weird part. It shouldn't be working, but it's working.
Yeah, I mean that's how the circle works, right? The circle. If I had to like sum up the strategy for the circle the best way I could, it's the image, and I've evoked this image a lot in the past, but it's the image of the little brother holding the controller that's not plugged in.
Hmm.
That is how the circle tends to work. But the problem is that you absolutely can make decisions that screw you over. It's just that you might not get screwed over, or you might make a good decision and get screwed over. There's just you have very little control, but you still have the ability to really screw up and regret it.
Yeah, I feel like, not dissimilar to the traders a little bit, where with the
Yeah.
traders, like again, having all the strategy and all the reads in the world doesn't matter if you hiccuped once and everyone's looking at you as a suspect. So with the circle, like you can do everything right. You answer one thing wrong, you have one less conversation, and you might get ousted, and or someone else just has an extra conversation over you, or you do nothing and you thrive and you just get through squeaky clean. So it is fascinating because we typically, with a lot of these shows, try and put the strategic lens onto it. And sometimes the answer is just like, yeah, it happened, and then it didn't work for this person, but it worked for that person. So that's
Yeah.
it.
Well, here's an example of there is a way to screw up and send yourself out. That's Darian. Oh
Yes.
boy, we talked about it already, but oof, we got the confirmation. Darian was out. I will tell you, Pooya, it almost ruined this whole batch of episodes that we did not get to see Kevin learning that Darian made him influencer. Like, I really needed him to go talk to Kevin, or for him to say in the goodbye message that he put Kevin's name in there for influencer. It did not happen. I am frustrated. I have not had the release of this knowledge getting out there yet, and I need it to happen.
Yeah, that's very annoying because that would have been a great time for us to watch him just sulk and feel bad or whatever the journey would be. I think what made me forget about that, because I definitely felt that very strong in that first episode.
Yeah.
What helped me move past it was just the amount of damage control Kevin immediately finds himself in after this, which was a fun journey. He didn't just lay down and die. He kind of just tried kicking and screaming, and some of it worked, some of it didn't. But I think that helped. And also, again, these I was about to say house guests, but yeah, these house guests being messy in the circle also helped me forget about that completely until you brought it up just now.
Yep. Yeah, I it was the same way for me. It was like, it was very frustrating in the moment, and then I eventually like got over it. I mean, the thing about the circle is that it can really like get you going, you know? You're just like, what no. And man, that's like, I liked Darian. And I was like, dude, what are you doing? Darian goes and visits Jadeja. I love Jadeja. I really wish he had gone to see Kevin though. As much as I enjoy these two, I didn't need to see them make out. I would have much preferred him, confront Kevin and have Kevin be like, "What? You made me influencer? What?" I think that would have been more fun.
I think they would have tried so hard to producers to be like, hey, Kevin just did you wrong. You should probably go
Right?
talk to him.
But then
He's
they
like,
also they had to have loved the makeout session as well. So
I mean,
I don't know.
is this the first kiss we've seen since season 1? I want to say,
I feel like it might be.
because I don't have these kisses locked in my memory like that. I'm not looking for the romance in the circle, but I definitely remember it happened in season 1 with Joey.
Mm-hmm.
So,
And I mean, this one was definitely more intense.
oh, easily. That was like a weekend. They've been in there together for many rounds at this point. And no, they seem very sweet. They seem very much feeling each other's energy. We didn't have this moment where, okay, one person is clearly more invested in the other. It felt very much we're on the same page.
The only weird thing is all this married talk for me.
I mean, it even came up with the video call with
That's where it crossed over to like, okay, what are we actually doing here? Because it's one thing for like, oh, circle husband, like, or we're getting married, like we're really running this. Oh, now we have bridesmaids. And how many kids are we gonna have? And it's like, okay, this is all fun, pretend, right? Then she's like, hey, I'm getting married. Like, I met my husband here, and it's like, wait, we are kidding, right? Like, is this, are you serious?
I feel like when she brought up, and I want 6 kids, like that really, it was like in the moment with them together is where I started realizing, oh, they're like really into this. I mean, obviously we could tell it was a crush plus more, but then I was like, oh, this is like, are we about to throw love in the mix here? Because it feels like we're already getting there. So burning hot and fast.
There you go. Well, listen, I'm rooting for him. As am I rooting for Jadeja. I really do. I feel like I really appreciate Jadeja on the show. She has like this strategy. But is also just like such a great commentator. And just feels very like down to earth. So in a cast full of like people that are really out there at times, I appreciate Jadeja's energy.
Yeah, a lot more grounded, I would say. I think Jadeja's biggest flaw in her game really comes down to the fact that her side essentially loses the popularity battle pretty badly. And a lot of it has to do with these house guests just jumping around, fighting, making up, rating each other high out of nowhere, and then keeping this person low. So we talked about the controller not being plugged in. I feel like I felt it for Jadeja more than others in that I feel like no matter what she was doing, she was fine. Other people around her that worked with her were just getting decimated.
Yeah. Um, so Darian is gone. Makeout session happens. And Kevin still thinks he did something there. Kevin still is like, ah man, if only I hadn't betrayed me like you did. It's like it's his goodbye message. You think he's lying to you in his goodbye message? Come on. Come on.
It's so funny, and I want to give her flowers, but literally inceptioning this into Kevin's brain and it working to this degree, it had no business working this effectively, and yet it did. She definitely did, like, put him in a blender, put this boy in a blender. Madeline did, and it's working wonders. She somehow was able to convince him that Darian needs to go, and I'm your number one now. And that's it. It worked.
It really did. It's wild how, like, I think that's an underrated aspect of the circle is like how snowed people can get. Like it seems like it's actually so much easier to lie to people
Mhm.
in the circle and have them believe you. You'd think it's the opposite. You'd think you'd be like a little more guarded against the people trying to lie to you. It's written there in plain text. Like you can read into the motivations of what they're trying to do, right? But I guess it's the opposite. You read your own, interpretation of it, and you tend to probably want to feel like it's good and not a lie. And so, for whatever reason, people tend to just get the wool pulled over their eyes, and there's no better example than Kevin this season.
Oh yeah, Kevin very much, again, one of the youngest ones here, 23-year-old little baby. Although I say this, like half the cast is around his age by the place we are now in the show. So what am I even talking about? But he definitely seems like the more gullible one of the bunch, and a lot of people definitely do without maybe knowing, gain control over Kevin for little bits of pieces of time.
Mhm. But they're gonna keep playing the game. Kevin, goes back to his ways. He gets into a little bit of hot water though. Um, Primarily because he doesn't get into water enough. And is not gonna be able to answer an anonymous question about lifeguarding. And good old Deb, aka Rachel, catches him out. I thought this was so funny.
This was great. This was a great use of the anonymous mode that they had. And I felt like being the only person that knows what the answer is going to be to trip him up like this was great. And the moment with Kevin, I know you were upset we didn't get the finding out Darian was the one who picked him, but looking at Kevin being like, well, the one thing I didn't want to happen happened. It's like, man, you made this lie. You didn't even read up on it. No studying. It's coming in raw.
Yeah, it was so unnecessary in the first place, and then you didn't even do, like, the basics 101, like, somebody who took a course knew better than you. It's it's very Kevin, I guess. And so, okay, I will say, for as messy and fun as this batch of episodes was, I do feel like the strategic, like, through line got a little topsy-turvy. So, my
Mhm.
understanding is, uh Kevin and Gianna block Darian. In the meantime, there's a group chat. And that's is that during this blocking or the next one?
A group chat with who?
The at-risk chat where like they're all talking about like, hey, we gotta
That
do
was
something about these two. That's next time, right?
before the next blocking happens.
Right.
Yeah.
So what happens is that they become influencers again, and it doesn't seem like anything meaningful happens strategically in between because, like, basically Kevin is making more alliances, secret alliances that end up getting him rated back at the top. Gianna just retains their position at the top, and Gianna finishes the job that they attempted to do before, which is get rid of Garrett, because Garrett is too close to Jadeja. And this is part of Jadeja's problem is that every ally Jadeja picks up broadcasts to the world that they're Jadeja's ally. Oh, well, I'm a Jadeja fan myself, I should
Mhm.
say. And so it becomes clear that you need to start removing those people so that Jadeja doesn't just pick up an easy win. And so they become influencers for the third time. They're the only influencers.
Yeah. To this point, only 3 blockings have happened. All 3 were done by the same 2 people in the same spots. Like, they are killing it. A trilogy.
It's never happened before that only these people have made actual blockings. And by the end of this batch of episodes, to quickly jump ahead, we see that Madeline becomes the super secret influencer or secret super influencer. Wait,
Secret Super, I
secret
think.
super influencer. Super secret influencer is a sillier way of saying it, but I like it. And in a weird way, you might say that Madeline was the person who blocked Andy. So if you think about it, because she's the one that orchestrated the ranking Andy last,
Yeah.
you think about it, it's really just these 3 people that have blocked. It's Kevin, it's Madeline, it's Gianna. Those 3 are the only people that ever really blocked anybody in the circle.
Yeah, because our first batch of influencers had their blocking disrupted and canceled.
Exactly.
So they didn't even get their chance to. And then they both promptly go out back to back. So really inconsequential there. Yeah. So I want to talk quickly about Kevin here, because Kevin gets caught out as not being a lifeguard, somehow is able to parlay this misstep in a private chat with Rachel, once Rachel reveals that she's the one who asked the question, into, hey, I'm going to come clean with you. You come clean with me. You tell me you're a catfish. I'll tell you I'm a lifeguard. Deal? Deal. All right, I'm a lifeguard. I'm not going to give you my answer, but let's work together then. We'll be a secret pair. I mean, Rachel kept her end of the bargain here, which I was very surprised by. I don't know, because he has Madeline, obviously. He has now Gianna. They're working as a secret pair, and picks up along the way Rachel, and then gets a top ranking from Jadeja as well at some point.
She thought she was burning one on Kevin.
Right.
So what happens here, I think, is that he gets a top rating from Jadeja, thinking she's burning one. But then there are also some people who have these like secret under the radar relationships with Kevin that they feel like, oh well, I have a relationship with Kevin. Everyone else hates him. He's got plenty of targets other than me.
Yeah, he
So
has bigger
I
fish to
can
fry.
easily put him in a top spot and either burn it or he gets it and I'm fine. And so I think that's like the thing that is weirdly helping Kevin is that he's known for being so slimy, that like everyone feels like, well, he's always looking for a deal. Like I can make a deal with him. And even though he has betrayed those deals, people still feel like, well, he has bigger fish to fry than me. And is that true? Not always. But it's working for him.
Yeah, which is what I go back to what I said at the opening of the podcast, which is we get a lot of discourse, especially from Garrett, who is like, you're just picking people off that are on the bottom. How is that helping your game? How is that strategic in any way? And I think a lot of them don't realize that it's because the strategy has started happening from the ratings now. It's not from the influencer chat. They are putting you in the bottom so you don't get influencer, and then they're flushing you out because they didn't want you to get influencer. It's as simple as. And I don't think a lot of them have made that connection quite yet.
Yep. And poor old Garrett is gonna get sniped out here. Really was a target from Gianna. And you can kind of see why. I think he was probably too smart and strategic to kind of fall in line into the Gianna's plans. Was too attached to Jadeja, who
Very
was
much so.
probably Gianna's biggest threat in the game. So I got this. In talking about Gianna letting Darian go as well, that felt like it could be a mistake because it does almost turn Jadeja against Gianna, but she understands the first one. By the time Garrett comes around, she's like, okay, now what's happening here? But at the end of the day, like, that's too late, right? Like, it's too late at that point. She's already lost her allies. So it did end up working, even though I do feel like I'm not sure that was the exact play there for Gianna. It did definitely work out. So it's hard to say.
I think it also helped that part of the deal they had struck with Darian going was hey, you claim it. You own it, Kevin. This was your move. You say you made the executive decision. And again, Kevin agrees to go along with this, and that gives them enough of a smokescreen for a little bit while everyone's looking at Kevin to just sneak on by.
Yeah, I mean, that really could have backfired. Like, if Kevin had come out and been like, listen, so Gianna made a deal with me that I would take the heat for this, but we both came to this decision. Like,
yeah, Gianna's lucky that Kevin didn't crumble under the scrutiny he was getting, because a weaker I'll give him this for being the young baby here. And I say baby because he's young, not because he's a child. But I feel like a lot of us would crumble under 8 people hurling hate or hurling negative. You are a traitor. You don't have, like, you are not my friend. You are betraying us. I would have definitely buckled and been like, listen, it's not everything you see. Like, it takes 2 to tango. I would have said something, but Kevin kept it to himself, and it does help with Gianna. It really does help go the distance with Gianna here.
mm-hmm.
Also, fun side note, Kevin being dumbed down to being the perm in Gianna's eye has been a very funny through line to follow in this last batch.
Yes, but he was like, I don't have a perm. What? This is all natural. Yeah, that was good. So okay. Kevin and Gianna, influencers once again. The at-risk chat starts to say, should we be concerned about this? The same people keep getting influencer. Are we doing something wrong? And then they're all just like Rachel is like, oh, I have to play into this. Like, I can't let them know that I'm actually loyal. I want to get some seeds planted. And she's also like starting to doubt herself. Like, is Gianna actually on my side? And so they're all kind of like starting to make this little revolution chat that immediately gets blown up the second that the influencers come back. They just immediately call each other out because. So correct me if I'm wrong. I believe what happens here is that Rachel throws out a message in the group chat once Garrett is blocked that, like, I'm concerned that I'm being used. And she says, I hope Gianna picks up that I'm maybe talking about her and that she talks to me and clears things up, which is a weird way of doing that. Gianna does not pick it up because why would she be talking about Gianna? Instead, Madeline assumes it's about her and goes, how am I using you, Rachel? And then drops the bomb. And he's like, well, that's interesting that you'd say that because you were in the at-risk chat trying to stir up trouble. And then Rachel's like, whoa, Madeline. And then they get into this big fight.
Yeah, it's so funny because I feel like Rachel doesn't see how this could happen. I do, because Rachel also lets them know that Garrett came and saw her, which then to say that and then to also be like, I feel used. Madeline's like, well, I'm the one. We talked about going for Garrett. You talked about how Garrett came into your chat and you had to leave. So you're talking about me for sure. Meanwhile, Gianna's sitting there thinking, I've protected you twice, 3 times now. It's definitely not about me. We're still good. So I don't have to worry about it.
Yeah. They get into this big fight. I mean, Madeline as a character is just bringing so much to the season and reminding me a lot of Jordan from last season in the sense that, like, just so active and devious in a way that is not usually beneficial to their games. Although we're seeing a lot of success here for Madeline by the end of this episode. It might actually work out for Madeline this time around, which is very interesting because I really do. I in many ways, I kind of want to see this gameplay rewarded because being so devious and then actually winning, I think will encourage more deviousness. And I think that the deviousness is helping, for me at least, the enjoyment of these circle seasons because we're getting into these big blowups and her being so reactive to comments that weren't even about her. It's just like it's working.
Well, I think the key is I like the deviousness as well. But the difference between this and some other players that we've seen is the deviousness does not have to be in the public chat, does not have to be in the main chat. And I feel like some of these players, they want to be messy, they want to be devious, but they want to do it on main. Everyone knows you do it through the alt account. You do it in the shadows. Do not do it on the main. That is a big mistake, which I feel like gives her at least plausible deniability on some of the things later on that she's able to hide under and no one really knows the truth for.
But that's the thing. I think if there are enough messy players, you can start to blend in while also being messy. And I think
You
that
can
she
pepper
ends up
some.
as secret super influencer
Mhm.
because nobody thought she'd actually become that influence. And the same way that Kevin was. Talking about mistakes, I will get there, but I feel like Gianna, given her second place, feeling like, she's got bigger fish to fry, probably wouldn't even become influencer anyway. It's like, just like that could be the end of Gianna's run. And I feel like, people making mistakes on that final blocking is such a key part of modern Circle, I guess, at this point. But yeah, so big blow up, and then Jadeja maybe a little too open about her calling out Gianna in the chats, because the thing is about these games is that that there are strategic players like Kevin, like Madeline, and even Tierra is like a strategic player. Garrett was, Jadeja certainly is. It's like they're all like Rachel, like they're all strategic players. Now Rachel is going to be loyal to Gianna, I believe. Gianna is going to be loyal to Rachel, and if anything, that's more dangerous. But I think the key here is that you shouldn't be saying, "Hey guys, don't you know Gianna's running things? Don't you know Gianna is doing these things? Don't you know that Gianna is the threat to win?" Instead, you should be saying, "Gianna, I love you so much. What a great decision you made. I didn't even like Garrett." Right? Like, because that, if you say that you are concerned about Gianna, that tells everyone else in the game that's a rating I can count on that's going to be low for Gianna. I don't have to rate Gianna low because they're rating Gianna low. I can use my own rating on somebody else to rate them lower. But if they think that they're the only ones that notice Gianna is doing well, then they're going to have to use their own ratings to do it. And then you can start to actually tank them. And I think this is part of why Gianna is doing well, is that like she has this, they have this core on top of people feeling like, well, surely someone else sees it and I can use my ratings for something else.
And I think the other thing with Kevin is that too, where like everyone was like, okay, we all don't mess with Kevin. Okay, good. Let me now use my number 8th or 7th on somebody who I think could do better than me. And I don't really trust. So let me tank them. And then Kevin ends up having all these like 2nd, 3rd, 4th picks that pushes him up to 2nd place.
Yep. Yeah. And just like that, it's we get a couple more games. We talked about the anonymous questions. I really think that like Kevin's was the best one there. And
Yeah, that was
then
the best moment. I think other than that, we had someone call Rachel a catfish. She doesn't really answer it. Yeah, and then otherwise there's just people being like, so Kevin, who you betraying next? Kevin's like, okay, I saw this coming. But then we had the game, Taran, where they gave you a list of like quirks, interests, and you had to pick 3. This
Oh
feels like a
yes.
game you do day one, not like at the very end here, right?
Yeah, well, of course Kevin picks money.
Yep, classic 22-year-old answer, picking the money.
I actually I was gonna do this for us. I was gonna ask us what ours are, but now I did not write them down and I don't remember what they were. I just know pets was definitely
There was therapy, education, pets, sex, money, soap. Soap was one of them.
soap.
Soap was one of them. Big part of the conversation in this one.
You don't think about it until you, because like when I saw soap, I was like boring. But then you think about it and you're like, if I didn't have soap, no, yeah, you have to have soap. That is a necessity. So yeah, I think soap and pets.
But on a list of like 20 things? I mean, I under for basic human interaction and socializing, no soap, no friends. Like that is
Exactly.
a formula that you don't want.
Yeah.
But over food?
Wait, was food one of them?
I don't know, but therapy was and education was there, and I'd pick them over soap. Probably.
Really? Okay. Well,
Yeah.
see, education is a weird one too, because it's like I already had it.
Oh, I see. Like this isn't okay. This isn't like okay. This is you're right because I'm not going for higher education at this point.
Yeah. But can you take it away from my brain? I don't know. That seems like a complicated procedure.
Nah, I don't think they're like, oh, you didn't pick it. All right, refund your whole education right now. You don't get to remember any of these equations. No,
And
I
I
don't think that
assume they're
happens.
also not saying like you can't learn new things. It's just like you can't be like you can't like have like education,
You can't go to
and like
school.
formal education.
Hmm.
Like I'm fine with that. Like I'm not going back to school.
Yeah, this if this was like for a if this was for like a you're running for like student body president or some kind of like governing spot, and they said pick three, education's part of my three picks there for sure.
Yes. Yeah.
But if it's things I can't live without as of today, I don't think education makes it.
Mhm.
I think therapy makes it. I think sex makes it, and I mean, Kevin's not wrong. Money matters. Money.
That listen, it did not. It did cross my mind. You know, I was like, because you have to again think about it. If what they're saying is you have to live without money entirely, zero money. That's I mean, unfortunately,
Not
we live
feasible.
in a society.
Hmm. Yeah, I got AC on right now. It's churning out dollar bills that I have to get invoiced later. You know, like
I'm
I need
pretty
money.
sure money is a pretty big necessity for
Hmm.
basic life. Yeah, I don't know. I
Hmm.
don't think I could live without money.
Yeah. No, it has to be on that list. It has to. In
And
the
let's
when
be
you're
real,
yeah.
nobody's enjoying sex if you have no soap.
No. Depends on the person, I think.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, and it depends on how much not soap. Is this the first day of not soap? Second day of not soap versus like a year of
I
not soap?
mean, listen, it's only gonna compound.
And
I
in the
guess oh,
summer?
you know what?
No.
Actually, hold on, hold on. Surely there are like soap alternatives, right? Like surely there are ways to wash yourself without soap that are like relatively effective. I
Probably.
I bet you could figure something out, especially if you had money.
Yeah. If you have money, you'll be okay. Probably. There's a solution out there that you might not have unlocked to you yet if you've not got that money.
Yeah.
Also, to be fair, having money doesn't mean that we're gonna have more money. It means we have the money we have now, right? It doesn't
Yes.
mean that we're gonna have it added on.
Yes. But,
So
much harder to, keep yourself clean with no money, I would imagine. Um,
yes.
so, anyway, these are the kinds of conversations I would like to have seen on the circle. But, you know, instead, we just had them pick some things,
Yeah.
so.
And then move on.
The other game was like the awards game that happened toward the end, where they gave away some awards. I felt like this was very strategic. It was like, don't give me the good awards. Do give me maybe not do give me the bad awards, but just like keep my name out of your award mouth.
Yeah.
And Rachel ends up winning the like winner of the circle award, which is a huge misstep for Rachel, I believe. Like there was so much focus on Gianna throughout, like the realist, the most loyal. Um, this should have been a gimme. Gianna's gonna win the circle. But instead, Rachel is like, "Oh, I don't want to put a bigger target on Gianna's back. I'm not gonna vote for Gianna." And opens the door for this to go to Rachel herself, and she's like, "Oh, it's like, what did you think was gonna happen?"
I think once you get to this place, once you get to this closer to the end game, one blocking away, and your relationship with Gianna is at a place where if Gianna gets one more chance to block someone, it ain't gonna be you. And this is not gonna come back to you. Because remind me, do they see who voted for who there? No.
No, they just see
Yeah.
who wins.
So
Yeah.
you just throw them under the bus. Like you are trying to get the final ratings at that point. It does not matter whether or not Gianna has a target on their back.
These final decisions are so much more crucial. You cannot be lax in these decisions, and you know, Darian proved that as well. Like you cannot just think, oh, it's probably fine one way or the other. You always have to try to be playing as optimally as possible. And yeah, Rachel messed up there, but She did have a visit from Garrett, in what was like to me a roller coaster of a like meeting, goodbye meeting, because at first Garrett was just so pissed. And she was like, "Listen, don't blame me." And then, it was so awkward at first, I felt. And then he starts to like get a bit more emotional and like just like break down. Like, I moved recently and I felt so isolated. And so this has been such a rewarding experience. Then you get why like he was so emotional to start. And then he's just like, "Can I see your family?" And then like really blindside hits us with and this is my son, he's forever 22. And it's like, oh my god, like this is so sad. And they're crying together. Like it was like I think it was pointed out, like I don't think I've ever seen a goodbye like this on the circle.
Yeah, we really went from a lovey-dovey, we're gonna have children, to probably one of the heaviest goodbyes we've seen on the circle. Both of them coming in with their fair share of, you know, guilt, not guilt, but emotion that they've been holding on their backs this entire time. Because Garrett came in ready to be like, "What did you rate me? Fourth? Why? I put you second. That makes no sense for your game." Because Garrett was definitely already seething from the at-risk chat they had to then get blocked and now be here. But it kind of all went away when the game stopped and life began.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, it was a weird scenario, I think, in particular, because um I went from like this place of like, oh man, he's coming for, oh, this is awkward. Like, oh man, this is like so emotional, to like, oh my god, I'm emotional. Really, really blindsided me there. But Garrett is so lovely. It was really cool to see like sort of his response. And I honestly, even more than Jadeja and Darian, I'm rooting for these two. I hope they become friends.
I think they will. They've already promised that when you visit, next time you're in town, you're staying with me. It's like, okay, deal.
Yeah. All right. Well, again, like so the strategic landscape here becomes very confusing because you get these blowups, and then the people go back to each other, and they're lying, and they're saying, "Oh, well, I'm going to be good with you," and so on and so forth. It's very hard to track exactly what's going on, and I think that what I've found in these kinds of situations where everything is very fluid is that the like solid relationships tend to like just like on an emotional level, like the actual connections, those stay stable while all of the strategic stuff is so fluid. And so you maintain the like Rachel and Gianna bond while everyone else is just kind of like wilding out. Like who's mad at who? Is Rachel still mad at Madeline? Have they made up? Okay, now they've made up at the last minute. Um, and this is where I feel like Gianna really messes up, because I think that they kind of felt like, okay, well, Madeline's definitely mad at Rachel, so I know Madeline's not going to block me. And so I can safely burn a vote, a second place rating on Madeline, without taking into account just how fluid everything is. And from my perspective, nobody puts Madeline at the bottom, with a second place from Gianna and a high rating from Kevin, and then like just middling ratings from everyone else. Madeline becomes the secret super influencer, and with a freshly made truce with Rachel, it kind of seems like there's only one real target remaining.
That target has been number one for the entire time you've been here, ever since that first disruptor mode. You get rid of Gianna here. You have
Mhm.
to, because especially if you've made things up with Rachel, boom, Rachel's rankings got to go somewhere. Might as well come to you. And also, you already have Kevin's ranking. That's another one you already have. And then it looks like you have been able to maintain a decent relationship with both Jadeja and Tiara, at least enough so that I feel like you're in their good graces and probably won't get like tank ranked come like the end game. It has to be Gianna. There's no other place you go here. It has to be.
Yeah. And like basically they've been like, oh, does she trust Rachel with this thing? And there's still a world where I think it's Rachel. Like, you did make this truce, yes, and it's so funny that, like, the trajectory of their relationships, profile swapping, becoming allies, and then becoming enemies on a miscommunication, and then trying to rectify things, but Madeline's, like, not sure if she can trust it. Like, I can see a world where, like, you take it but the problem with taking out Rachel, I think, is that if you take out Rachel, everyone's gonna think Gianna's defanged and not see her as the threat she is in the final ratings. If you don't take out Rachel, um, and you leave Gianna, then obviously like Rachel and Gianna are going to rate each other number one. That's super dangerous. So at that point, you just have to do, I think, Gianna, and then with Rachel still there, Rachel's still a threat. I think with Gianna gone, you might think, okay, well, Rachel's not protected anymore. Maybe is somebody that you could rate lower, but like assuming you have Kevin, which is not a solid ally in the final ratings, as far as I'm concerned.
Mhm.
But nobody knows that you were a super secret influencer. So or secret super influencer. So so you can take this out. And then I think a lot of people would assume that it was like Jadeja or like Tierra, or even Kevin. Like a lot of people, I don't think a lot of people would jump to you being the one that happened to win this. And so I think it really puts her in a good spot. And so it felt to me too like they were building up to this. Like they really, in my eyes, like made a point of being like, Gianna rates Madeline number 2. Oh, well, she's definitely not blocking us, bro. It's like, uh-oh.
We saw this dance. We just saw this with Darian giving the power to Kevin. So I feel like surely you're not going to do this and it doesn't happen. To me, you gotta just simply, there is one guaranteed 1-for-1 exchange of number one rankings here. It's Rachel and Gianna. You take one out.
Mhm.
I know which one I see is the better one for you, but I think ultimately you still take them out. Maybe you take out Rachel and follow the through line of, okay, we take out Rachel. Gianna has been number one for so long. Everyone's going to tank the Gianna ranking for the finale, right? And then you're fine.
Mhm.
But I just don't see it being anybody else. I really don't.
Yeah. Well, we didn't get to find out, which is annoying once again. I still just feel like it's just a better blocking if we find out in this episode and we go to the finale with the final players. Like to start the finale with a blocking just feels like okay, whatever. But I will say I'm excited for the finale. I I think that like I mean in general, I think everyone's gonna freak out. I will say I while it's I think what's going to happen in the obvious move, I would prefer that Gianna the twins they make it to the finale. I think that would be I've been saying this for a while. I think they have the funniest reaction for people. Is like, they're so I think different than what people will expect Gianna to be, which I think is
Yeah.
going to be
And
very funny.
if the pick is between Gianna and Rachel, 100% give me Gianna in the finale because everyone has already pegged Rachel as a catfish and
Yeah,
also
exactly.
talked about how she's an older woman. So there's not going to be a gag moment. Whereas with Gianna, I feel like we could have very fun reactions from the others as they meet Gianna as well.
Mhm.
So yeah, I agree with you there. I agree with you there. And I want to say, I think coming into this end game, I'm very content and okay with every win except for a Tierra win. And
Yep.
I think Tierra's biggest crime is just coming in late,
Yep.
which is no crime of their own.
I still feel like while I appreciate that they've cut back on adding people, um and maybe part of it too, Jordan certainly makes a big impact at the end of last season. But so maybe part of it's editing as well. But yeah, it just kind of feels like it just kind of feels like what she's doing here a little bit. Like Like she doesn't feel like she's a proper part of the cast, and I think it is a combination of timing of when she was added and also not being edited very prominently on the show. And so we'll see. But I agree. I think I'm still very much pulling for Jadeja. I feel like she's definitely been hamstrung a bit here. No Darian, no Garrett. She's got Tierra, but again, Tierra's being so obvious about the fact that she's got Jadeja's back. So I think she's got a shot here, but Tierra's also like a strategic raider. Um, I think Jadeja's best chance is that people assume that nobody is gonna rate her high, and therefore not rate her high. The problem is, I think for Jadeja, is that assuming Gianna does go out here, I think everyone thinks it was Jadeja. I think everyone thinks it was Jadeja, and they're all scared to rate her high in the final ratings. Like, or I wouldn't even say scared to rate her high, but they don't think to earn a high rating on her. And so I think she's got a little bit of a tough road there. I think that Rachel is probably like one of the front runners here. With assuming she survives, with Gianna gone, I think that again, like people might think that Rachel's not like as supported and might get like middle ratings from a lot of people and not any like super low ratings. I don't know if that's going to be enough to win. I think you need at least one first generally,
Hmm.
and
I
that's where
think,
it's tough.
yeah.
So maybe not actually. Now that I'm thinking about it.
Yeah, because yeah, because if you need a first and we're going off of one of these two are leaving, the other one will suffer as a result as well for sure because they need that number one ranking.
Mhm.
Whereas Madeline and Kevin at the end, if they swap each other number ones, that's already putting them in a very good
We
spot.
are we might actually see like Madeline or Kevin might win this.
Which Madeline winning would be, like you said earlier, I love rewarding this player. Kevin, I cannot believe we're in a world where Kevin could be the winner of this game. I know I just said outside of Tierra, anyone else can get it, and I'm cool with it. But also, Kevin is just not someone I'd peg to be in such a position of power this often in this season, and he just keeps finding ways to get there.
I think it might be Madeline though. Like if I'm thinking about it, assuming she takes out Gianna, which she might not, but like assuming she takes out Gianna, um, I think I don't think anyone will think it was her. I think that Kevin will probably throw a number one on Madeline.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think other people will be worried about the fact that Kevin has been an influencer so many times. And they're going to be worried about rating Kevin high. And so, yeah, like I could see like Rachel putting Kevin pretty low. I could see, Jadeja putting Kevin low. Uh, so, Jadeja probably goes like Tiara, which is smart. Tiara goes Jadeja. Kevin and Madeline probably go each other. And then Rachel, I don't know. I mean, she made up with Madeline. Who does Rachel pick if Gianna's gone? I think it might be, I don't think it's Kevin. I don't think it's Jadeja. I think it might be Madeline. I don't think it's Tiara.
Mm-hmm.
Tiara. Um, yeah, I think Madeline, and it makes sense. I mean, she's been super prominent all season since she made it in there. So she might be the front runner here.
Yeah, yeah. Barring finding out who is blocked, because
Right.
that's going to give us a lot of information. Because also, I think what she has going for her is getting a near bottom rating the same round that Garrett goes, being seventh,
Exactly.
is a great spot to be in. And if this was a public announcement of Madeline's first, goodbye, Madeline's odds of winning no matter what.
I mean, this is the perfect setup. She
Mm-hmm.
had the next lowest rating in the previous public ratings, then gets the bump of super secret, secret super influencer, which means she gets to take out her biggest competition with no ramifications. Nobody knows that she did really well in these ratings.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't I mean, this is exactly where the last winner was, right? The Circle last season was won by. It was a catfish, so I'm having trouble with the name.
Brandon.
Brandon, yes. Who I believe was in a similar spot where like Brandon won the secret super influencer, and was able to take out one of his biggest competition. And then nobody knew to rate Brandon lower because they didn't know that like that impact had already happened. So this is like the prime spot to win for sure. I think the secret super influencer is probably pretty indicative of who ends up winning as long as they make like a decent decision.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other thoughts, predictions?
No, all eyes on the finale. Finales for the Circle I always have a good time with, because for me it's not even about the result. It always comes down to the reunion, the reactions. I'm always a sucker for that.
I need Andy to find out about Madeline. I need Kevin to find out about Madeline and Darian. And I need to see reactions to the twins. Those are my 3 bucket list Circle finale items.
I'm down with those. I agree.
Yeah. I will say, I don't know how much I actually care about who wins.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. I've kind of gotten to the point with the Circle because it is so random sometimes that like I'm just kind of like the winner is not the thing I'm looking forward to the most by a long shot for the finale.
No, it's about all the other stuff, and I feel like we would care more about the outcome would we not be in a position where we have to wait a whole week.
True.
Because at that point, it's not even about the end result. It's about okay, let's have a fun episode, and the parts that are fun are all the other stuff. And because of the nature of this show, think about a Big Brother. We go through 100 days of this show, so we are invested in the results and the outcome on the winner, because it would make the whole season feel a certain type of way. This show will begin and end in a month, and we watch 4 episodes at a time. Like, there's not enough investment there for me to be like, okay, but the winner has to be this person, otherwise it's been ruined for me.
Yeah. All right, well, we will be back next week to talk about the finale of The Circle Season 7, where we will hopefully see at least some of those things, as well as who the winner is. So stay tuned for that. In the meantime, of course, we've got Big Brother stuff going on. We got scripted stuff going on, Survivors going on, and Twitch. You can find me on Twitch. But yeah, where can we find you?
Find me on Twitch, twitch.tv/Pooya as well. Talking 90 Day Fiance, Mass Singer coming in this week. Should be fun. And also the Traders Canada premiering this week. So I'm busy with the podcast, having a good time, though can't complain. And Twitter @Pooyism.
All right. Well, thank you all so much for joining us here today. And we will see all of you next time.